Yeah. Yeah. Just
Thank you.
goes on and on and on. Anyway.
So this is a work called Untitled, made by Kris Verdonck, who's on my right. Kris is the artistic director of Two Dogs, the company that produces both performing arts works and visual arts works, installation works, and Kris is the artistic director of that company and makes all of the works that we're going to talk about tonight. On my left is Kristof van Baarle, who's the dramaturg for Kris's work, and also a PhD student at the University of Ghent, writing about some of the ideas and practices that are associated with Kris's work. And Kristof has also been a visiting Segal fellow at the PhD program in theatre here at the Graduate Centre for the last 6 months, nearly, and
3 months and a half now.
three. God, it's
it seems.
yeah, it's gone quickly.
Feel at home.
And so what we're going to do tonight is to, I think, begin with this work Untitled, and then take us back through a series of works that Kris has made around this idea of the title of our presentation tonight, which is Listen to the Bloody Machine. And Listen to the Bloody Machine is the title of a book that is actually on sale in the foyer, that was produced by Marianne van Kerkhoven, who was the late great dramaturg of the Belgian theatre scene, and was dramaturg for Kris for many years before she passed away 2 years ago now. So, and that that book is a study of one of the longer pieces that Kris made called End, and it's a book that deals with the process of the making of that work. So, but Kris, Listen to the Bloody Machine is a very good way to describe your process in a certain kind of way, because you've said in the past many times that as an artist what you do is you need to listen to objects and machines. Could you say a little bit about that?
Yeah. I did quite a lot of combinations. I attached quite a lot of performers to machines and objects, and we were rehearsing 1, 2, 3, 4, and you just saw an abstract, the dancers you saw flying around, and that was the 1, 2, 3, 4 piece. And the idea there was that the dancers made a real physical connection with the machine and the possibilities. And it was very, very subtle. Even the slightest little mistake made dancers do whole other movements than they're supposed to do. And at one point, one dancer couldn't make one movement that she was not capable of. And then I remember that another dancer was discussing with and how technically to do it. And at one point, Gemma, one of the dancers said, just listen to the bloody machine. And that was the thing. So the idea is that, first of all, that the performers had to understand the machines they were in, and the technical crew had to understand what the performers wanted. And this crossroads, there's my playground. And at the other hand, it's also a very classic idea. For example, Michelangelo and to construct the David, you need the right material, and the material actually decides much more about the end result than what you as an artist want of the material. Also, our robots we made, at one point, it is a little jumping robot. Probably I'll show it later on, and the programmer was working on it, and at one point he said like, "Oh, but I think I understand what the robot wants." And this is that made in the whole. It was a quite important moment in the whole history of also the company and stuff. We consider human beings and objects, machines, more or less on an equal level, and so I really have to listen to my bloody machines, listen to what they want from us and not what I want from them, because they decide in our society so much. And then even on the next level where Marianne put it on is also listen to the machinery outside, listen to the politics, listen to watch what is going on, and then you will discover stuff. That's the listen to the bloody machine.
Many of your works, I think, make us very aware of the fact that the business of performance and the business of performative installation arts is really about an environment, is really about a set of practices and a set of protocols and a set of machinery that in many other theatre examples there's an attempt to make invisible. So they hide the lighting, they hide the sound, they hide the effects. But I think your work is very, very visibly making these forces painfully present in many instances, and operating on bodies, operating on audiences in various ways, and I find that point very interesting as well. There's the focus on the material business of performance that's very strong.
Yeah, well, the revealing is such a, especially in theatre, it's such a difficult matter because a theatre itself, as a machine, as an environment, is a very technical environment. It's a producer of images. It's a producer of dreams, and as from the very start, actually, we should first of all kill all the lights, all of it. Even the exit signs have to be off for even just a minor second, because from that moment on, the outside world is gone, and there's a new world with new light, manipulated light with oh my English. So the whole environment is an artificial one, and I'm quite aware of that and trying to play with the fact that it is a machinery. Since it existed, and so it's sometimes I hide machines, but then so it's a whole play of what to show and what not, to produce images, but to unveil stuff.
Before I bring Kristof into the conversation, would you like to show us one of your early pieces?
Yes. Well, I always do I always show two pieces to.
Yep.
There I started. The first one is, well, and those two pieces are for me the most important ones, and actually I should have stopped after those, but I had to live also, so but I think those were the most pure ones. So I was so I did a bit of architecture, theater, and visual art studies, and one of my problems was that I couldn't kill actors. They are a protected kind, and there are too many of them. But protected specimen, they can play dead very well, but they
can't be dead.
They can't be dead.
Or if they are, that's a problem.
Yeah. Well, and you have to repeat that every night.
Yeah.
And so there, I think also we are on the core problem of theater. It's every night, and then I discovered due to the visual arts that we have a very special relationship with machines, with objects, with these things, with this one, and then there's this kind of empathy we have with machine. So this is a very early piece. It's called Dancer Number 1, and it's presented. The first one is really a real prototype. So it's even in VHS film. Here we go. That's it. So it's a seesaw, got bricks with, very aggressive stuff. And I attached an iron L to it, put it in the plug, and it's begin, middle, end. I really present it as a mini theater piece or a pure tragedy. Death is certain and real, and it's also, I buy the machine, I connect it, in the plug, burns down, and next machine. So it really dies. Every night it's different. We never know what they do. I will show you even a second one. That was a bit more, more
dramaturgy.
The dramaturgy was better, or the performer was better. The dramaturgy stayed the same. I thought it was so strange that they clapped. Why on earth would you clap for a machine that burns down, and why people laugh and huge mystery. Why do we cry when R2-D2 dies? We make a new one, and there you go. So this is so I could finally do real death on stage, pure theater, even towards a ritual, if you like. And even again, audience at one point, somebody said, you're causing pain to the machine.
Yeah.
How? So I thought that was something. And here also you see the whole drama and everything, the whole setup is machinery. No human being is. So that was one part. The whole real drama is for the machines. And then I worked also the other way around. And this piece is called In. More or less same periods. The water is 37 degrees exactly, and it functions as a sensory deprivation tank. All senses are cut off. The actor doesn't see, hear, feel anything, and he gets in this kind of state of trance, and nothing really happens. He's under influence on a machine, of a machine, and they speak more or less the same language. They're really, the influence is so huge that the actor is put to silent. He's almost the object. There's a thing of a doll coming in. Only heartbeat and respiration are live, so you have a bit of empathy. I will show you also for a second the female version. And here you see, for example, she's so far off that she's not straight anymore. She's completely gone. And so the difference, and here you have talks of a museum. So where all the language of the first piece was pure theater while it was a machinery, here you have all aspects of a museum. you visit the thing. And from that moment on, I started that. This is really the playground I do. I switch constantly from one leg to another. If it's drama, that's the machine. If it's not, so, and that immediately also I want to apologize immediately in the sense that I have no word for is it performance, is it theater, is it dance, is it, because those definitions, the first one was a performance. The second one was more installation than it was performance, while there was a living creature, so we can say, yeah, anyway. So I get always lost in these definitions.
I think it introduces us to a number of thematics that keep returning in your work. One is the notion of the uncanny, because people, especially in the second work, respond very much to the out-of-body experience that they're watching, and many people have commented on the fact that they're really watching those people's blinking, and when they blink, there's some kind of earth-shattering moment. The second one is projection, and this capacity that we have to project onto the machine our emotional terrain and our emotional experience, and we humanize the object in all of those kind of ways. And
we had also in Avignon, we put it and one of the audience members in the middle of the performance, he said, "It's not true." To all the other members of the audience, "This is not true. There's no water in the tank. You can clearly see that this is not true." And you're standing next to a tank with somebody in with filtered water.
yeah.
So the question, what's going on? What did he see? What did he see? I don't know what he saw. While bubbles are there and the whole thing is, so it's a kind of hyper reality or something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's a distanciation from reality at the same time. It's hyper and moving away from, and I think those two features are constantly at work in interplay in these kind of works that you're doing there.
Yeah. And also, of course, the word uncanny is, well, crossing the uncanny or getting into the valley of the uncanniness is when machines become too human, or when human beings are getting too much machinery. And again, this listening to the bloody machine, the more the machines are alive, the more we don't like it. But we are very attracted to it at the same time.
Kristof, you've written quite a bit about this topic. So.
Yeah, I was thinking about the interdisciplinary aspect of it, that it's actually also a consequence of the content of the work. Because if we think about humans being objectified or being more dependent on objects, or objects becoming precisely more alive or vivid or present in our everyday context, then the space where you normally present human beings, being the theater, and the space you normally present objects, those spaces start to get blurred and become a mixed environment. I guess, and then the uncanny also ties to that precisely, because it's that space where objects become alive and humans, well, look like objects, or you think of them like that. Yeah.
I will show you one of the pieces. So this time, classic setup, theater setup, audience, stage. Yes, and it's called Heart. Does this work? Yes, very well. I will skip the advertisement for a sec. So, actress alone on stage, heartbeat is in real time. So every 500 heartbeats, she's pulled backwards, 8 meters backwards, 4 meters high, smashes into a mattress, falls down on the next mattress, gets back on stage and waits for the next 500 heartbeats. It's a lot of fun to do. She's in all security, she's safe. And the whole idea was, first of all, on a theater level, stretching a moment as far as possible of tension. That's the theater setup in a whole technical environment where the environment itself has a huge influence on the performer. And due to the adrenaline, well, yeah, the 500 beats get faster. And she is in a kind of loop where a machinery, but it's also the heart that provokes the whole thing. So she's in her own loop. Again here, yeah. And there again, the moment when you show a body that is under influence of a machine, it reveals something. And I don't know if you ever drove a car without a windshield. Then you start to know how much 100 kilometers an hour is. It's so fast. It's so crazy. Or you stand next to a train, a high-speed train, and you have this, I don't know how many tons that pass in a couple of seconds, while the inside is very, very safe and very sound. And this confrontation between how a body is actually moved so fast, and we don't know because you're inside and drinking your coffee. Yeah, that was hard.
I think the loop also tells us something about the entanglement of the human with the technology he creates or she creates for himself. This is because the heartbeats drive the system it triggers the backlash. So it's and the faster it goes, the more frequent and more violent it appears.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's also an important thing that we often talk about, is how we create our own difficult mess, our own problematic machines.
Yes, the idea, and I really have a lot of. It's so strange that we do. We create machines that we think are better and will clean up the mess that we made with the former machine. And we constantly do it. Now the electric car will save, and in a couple of years we will say like, oh, all these batteries, oh man, where to put them? We can't do anything with them. And then we have to put them in the ground and invent a new machine that is, and I don't know, another option is to drive less around, but that's not an option. So we are, as a human specimen, absolutely specialized in putting ourselves in a lot of troubles always. And then we try in full panic to clean up and invent something new, and there's a fail once, fail more, fail better Beckettian thing going on in full speed as we just do things and we just figure them out, and sometimes they explode and sometimes they don't, and then we go to the next one and we keep ourselves busy. That's what we do.
I sense in a lot of your works that there's the spectator themselves are very, not in reality, but actually in a very fictional, theatricalized way, are being subjected to these forces that you're talking about. There's a degree of perhaps performative danger that is experienced in these works. And one or two instances, I think in BOSCH, for example, that's quite a realistic notion. But many other works too. We're looking at these works and we're very much immersed in the kind of technological forces that are being unleashed in the work. Is that something that you've thought about a lot in the kind of dramaturgy of these events? And
Well, for these earlier works I was not involved yet,
No.
so I can't really say something about that. But if we would come back, for example, to Untitled, where we thought a lot about creating a very stretched idea of time, where you are immersed in a boring situation, where you share doing nothing for a moment, you share the theatrical apparatus in that way. I guess that's the way of exposing the audience to the same torture or the same environment as the performer or object is in. That's one instance, for example.
Yeah, and we also I also made a piece where we put the audience to sleep, where it was in a festival that was on saving the planet, and then I thought, well, we will not save it. That's not our goal. The goal is to consume the thing and go with a bang. I'm convinced about it. So I thought, well, what do I do? Because, and then I thought, like, well, the moment we sleep, we're a bit okay with our environment. And so I thought I make the audience go asleep for an hour, and then I on a theater technical basis, I thought if I take all the elements, everything I have, light, movement, video, sound, and I just push it towards sleep, make this audience go to sleep. And I'll show you. And they did. More or less 60% of the audience after 15, 20 minutes they're gone. So,
and he's doing some research on sleep
yeah,
and cognition.
we had to give pillows to the audience because not because they would go to sleep faster, but first I thought it will never work, and then at one point during the rehearsals, I fell asleep quite a lot, and so the director that sleeps in front of his own creation was quite a lot of fun. How was it? I don't know.
I was asleep.
I was asleep. I think Maria never saw the end. Never.
Sleepy dramaturg.
Yeah. Well, she did it also for all the other shows, so that was okay. Anyway, so at one point the assistant was a bit too late, and she got on the side of a table a bit like this, and then after the show or after the rehearsal of 1 hour, she was so angry at me because she had these pains in the back because she was like almost going down, and it's like the aeroplane pains you have, like sitting and then we thought we had to give the audience pillows because otherwise they would get just angry, and that wasn't the idea. First a little bit of explanation. Dr. Segal.
We don't play, but our kids play, you know, where they're moving around.
Harvard.
It was going to be like the same. It's in.
And then she explains
Internal release. Fully done on the
what she's
floor.
going to do, the
Now
dance. And then and it's more or less a loop of 10 times 5 minutes. And we put a camera because nobody believed me. So yeah, this is just. I think at one point even somebody is laying with his back to. So it just goes on and on. It was also so dark that the camera has a problem. This is the waking up part. Then then all the sleepy faces.
Get some time, wake up, and have a nice evening.
I was amazed myself that it worked. I didn't know it was possible, but you can, yeah. And here it was actually somehow this piece was a complete different piece because I had a goal with the audience. Normally I have no goal whatsoever. They like it or they don't like it. But this one was, let's make them go to sleep. And the whole machinery was as a kind of hypnosis session with lots of naughty things going on, basses, bass sounds, and etc. etc. Here we worked with a hypnotist. It's actually one big hypnosis session, and this hypnotist is sometimes responsible to do hypnosis for people while they're in surgery. And so he's responsible then that they don't wake up. Yeah, so that was fine.
Let's talk a little bit about the projection aspect of your work, because it's often said that people see some of the works that you're making and your intention is to make one thing, but people are seeing many other kinds of things. And I think this question of projection is something that we've returned to a lot in discussing your work, the need to project onto these objects, the need to create some kind of drama, I guess, around them.
Yeah, I will show you the little jumping robot, and so it was based on Beckett, lessness, 3 variations on chaos and order. The first one was technically it's a box, a cube, not really, on 4 meters. Audience is standing around. It's this high more or less, and we can manipulate the movement of the smoke.
Yeah.
It's heavy smoke that stays inside of this box, and we try to control, try to sculpt this matter. And here again, it was really listen to the bloody machine. We really had to listen to how the smoke wanted to behave much more than the moment I wanted to force it into something, it didn't work. And about misunderstanding, at one point I was standing amongst the audience and there was this little old woman next to me, and she said, "Look how great." Blew all the smoke off. It's nice, no? Yeah. So sometimes things go wrong between audience and me.
Irresistible. People
Yes.
were always
Always
putting their
go
hands in,
inside.
even though they were told not to. And
Oh man, damn audience.
Yeah, it's
The only
yeah.
problem of performance is the audience.
Figment, light becoming
Yeah, for the
pale.
actor I just have to kill. I know.
The
I know.
dust, tiredness,
So this was a little projection on a doll, classic
soil, similar pale as the air.
a Tony
Oxygen.
Ausler technique.
Breathing,
But this time we made
Standing
it. The
still,
whole
a
suit
corpse.
was made
cells of grey soil,
sur mesure on the measure
Silence.
of the projection.
the soil,
And
similar
it was
grey matter,
45 centimeters
earth, pale
high.
corpse
It was
breathing.
the Beckett text.
In between images, the nothing.
Yeah, that was the
And
second
not-
part. And here we have the little dancing robot. This is what he liked to do. Right. And you hear the awe.
they always do that.
And how come? 90% random, and so it doesn't follow the classic Aristotelian bow, and so it becomes tragic not to. That was a big one. So it becomes tragic because we want the little robot to follow this perfect dramaturgical humankind line. That's quite genius. But while not following this, it becomes even more tragic because we project on our humanity thing on it, while it is not at all. This is, for example, tragic, and it tries, and it does, but it's not at all. It's just a bad program. And so I even think that it's the same difficulty as a biologist has with chimpanzees. It's so difficult not to project the biologist's sex life on the chimpanzee. Oh, it does this, just like me yesterday morning, etc., etc. While it's probably complete nonsense. And the same thing happens here. We have these mirror neurons, and we project everything we have on it.
We start to form narratives. You've spoken of this being a kind of Spanish peasant man.
Yes, that was the case. But that was also probably because the technician was Spanish. So, about maybe a bit further. So, I think this one. So going more into the theater setup. This was a Heiner Müller piece, and we doubled the actor, so you couldn't see which one was the real one and which one was the false one, and they talked for hours. So there was one projection, and
Je kent het woord pneuma, Grieks voor adem. Als jij hem zo te zeggen aan je sigaar ademt, adem je dan altijd in? Ja, maar niet de rook. De rook gaat tot in de mondholte en gaat dan weer naar buiten. Die blaas je er weer uit. Ja. Over adem gesproken, ik las iets fantastisch in een Amerikaanse misdaadroman. De sheriff, het hoofdpersonage, gaat naar het kerkhof en giet daar, zoals hij elk jaar doet op Memorial Day, een blikje course beef.
Really the dialogue between light and a real actor. And they nag around on stuff. And they just keep on talking, and a very terrible, boring piece. And that was a real, so the further I get, the more older I get and the more budget, the machines can become more and more complicated. And this one was already a complete, very complicated machine and a body that were in dialogue.
Yeah, I think in addition to that, if you talk about projection, what you saw now are both video projections. But what happened when it was live, which is weird to say now, when it was staged in the theater, people would feel the presence of the projection, which is also kind of particular because you get a complete ephemeral body somehow there, but you feel it as if it's present. And then also the funny thing that the table always, the object always, which was always a projection, always felt more present than the human standing next to it. When you're doing the recordings, it always helped when he stood next to the table to create a more realistic sense of presence.
And we had nights where we thought, hey, the projection was really good, while it was every night the same. And that was because the actor, and there was a lot of fun for the actor, saying, for example, while we're recording, all the good jokes were for the projection. So he had to support. He was the supporting actor of his image, and so the audience says, "Aha! This one had to be the false one because he's the funny one." With the projection of the little guy, there people were really searching: is Johan Leijzen, the actor, is he really there? Yes or no? And during the recordings, Johan made 2 little mistakes. And that was the confirmation for our audience. He has to be there because he makes mistakes. And machines don't make mistakes, so it really has to be something human. While he was 75 centimeters high. We are so strange creatures.
Yeah, we really want to believe that he's there,
Yeah.
and it's a very strong image, that particular seeing that work, and people are really fascinated by this compact miniaturization and hyper reality of his presence, I guess.
Yeah, and you feel the presence, while it's not at all.
Yeah.
A theater as a human environment, as a living art, loves death, loves machines, loves it just loves it. I don't know how it comes. I don't know the real mechanics behind what the audience sees on stage, and the whole chemistry between audience and what happens on stage. It's such a complicated thing.
Kristof, you've thought quite a bit about the doubling effect in that projection work, and you've spoken about how that leads to some kind of experience of a kind of crisis of subjectivity in the audience.
Well, I'm not. Yeah, it's. We were talking a lot during the rehearsal process about the idea of the double, and how we create our own doubles constantly in our everyday lives. We create Facebook doubles, we create email doubles, avatars and Second Life, or other machinic forms of doubles. And it seems as if they maybe have the more exciting life than we do. Maybe our avatar has more fun in Second Life than we do in the real life, for example. And that is sort of a general condition maybe we were thinking about in how we relate to technology or to more abstract systems, that they are more vivid and more lively than we are, that we are more or less reduced to immobile, sitting here and using mobiles that are mobile. I think that was a topic that we were often talking about also because we were using virtual presence here. And there was something else.
Well, let's take the conversation now to, I guess, the more political end of the work. That some of your work, more recent work, has been dealing with notions of machinery and ecological crisis. I'm thinking of Exote, but also the very operatic work End.
And that's also where the book is. So this is a piece of End. So all characters go from right to left over stage. It's one big installation, much more than a theater piece. And this one, for example, this is the first character based on Stakhanovism. It's very Beckettian. They go from right to left, and that's everything. There's no drama whatsoever. And he pulls a cable, and he pulls the projection of the clouds. See, he pulls and the clouds move also, and same as the lights also follow. So he moves. He pulls the whole carousel of characters.
Yes, madam, we're coming up for you.
That's another one. They are in a constant state of end. It's not the end, it's end. They keep on being in the same
It's very, very
Endless
very
end.
hot.
Endless end, yes.
Could you stay on the line with me, please?
And so he's speaking texts that have been drawn from kind of the history of dystopian contemporary fiction and theatre.
Yes.
Beckett, Kafka.
No. It was
McCarthy.
all the horror, the real things. So yeah, so all reality, the things we did to each other the last century. Yeah. We saw also one character fall down from 8 meters going up, and that's with Superman falling from the sky and trying again. Another one.
The only way to stop the burning is with wet mud, but at this point it's impossible to stop.
This was the little character here, based on a Alexander Kluge story, where there he goes again, and the story of this, the story where I started from for this character was a woman living in an area.
Dresden after the...
No. It was the radioactive problem, the explosion of Chernobyl, and she had a fur coat, and after 10 years they could go back to Chernobyl to take their stuff, and she was so proud on this fur coat, and when she found it back, it was almost intact, just had a black spot of pure radioactivity, and she cut it a bit out and she sewed it back on, and then she lived for the rest of her life in St. Petersburg wearing this proudly wearing this fur coat. It was also this comes also from images on 9/11, where these very the falling, but also the very civilized people like you and me suddenly in an end kind of situation. The flying businessman. Yeah, and he really had to. He'd never understood his machine completely, so he really is struggling to get to the other side. And I remember that at one point his machine was stuck. It was our problem, and he stayed for 5 minutes or so, just hovering and trying to get. Anyway, so that was the no good tragedy without a choir.
While I was there, crying so much, they were crying all the time. My mother was crying. Then the old people started throwing up.
And the story about the method. First of all, the method of creating stuff is I have a framework that comes from a long dialogue with Kristof, and from there this framework is set, and actors or dancers have loads of liberty inside of a framework. And the story of Claire, she could do with her body bag whatever she wanted. And at one point we had a premiere and there was a lot of drinking. And the next day she was so tired and she said, "Hey Kris, can I go and sleep a bit on stage?" I said, "Yeah, of course you can do whatever." And she as one of the first characters, she pulled the body bag on stage, laid her head on the body bag and did a little nap.
Yeah.
And the black snow was falling on her, and it was just an incredible image while she wasn't performing at all. And then she woke up, put the snow a bit off, and she took the body bag and went, and it exploded on meaning and on dramaturgical material. Well, she just didn't do anything.
Yeah.
She just understood very well what she was doing.
This frame is something that you've spoken about a lot, and you set yourself some parameters, and then you never leave them. You set the frame, and you don't break it, no matter what the consequence. So there's a kind of projection forward relentlessly with the frame.
Yes. On the method, it's always very simple. There's a dramaturgical frame that is being set, and then I just keep on repeating to all actors and to everybody that's involved, from the light technicians to theater directors to everybody, just this is what we're going to do. We're going to put the audience to sleep. And then a month later, people say like, hey, what are you doing? Yeah, we're going to put the audience to sleep. And nothing else. And that is let's make a jumping robot. And later on, say like, hey, well, yeah, we're making a jumping robot. Mm-hmm. What else would we do? The moment that is questioned, then I have a huge problem, because it's for the 1, 2, 3, 4 piece we saw in the beginning. It was a solo, duet, trio, quartet, and that's what we're going to do. And I remember shifting towards something else, and it's always very problematic. Yeah, I will show you for a second something completely different. So let me see. Here is a presyncope. Again, maybe just also on materials I use. It's everything. It's much more. First, there's a dramaturgical frame coming from text. Lots of Beckett, Heiner Müller, etc. Kafka. And from there, there's a frame, and inside of that frame, everything happens. And then also, the materials have to adapt to this frame. It's not the other way around. Here we have a projection. It's called presyncope.
Never heard it so loud.
And it's 20 minutes.
In a slow morning fog, the air shivers. A cold wind blows straight up, so noisy. A woman in a dress flashes, scared to death. Flowers printed. Coffee. Bring your own cup to the office. No more plastic. A microsecond. My head smashes onto the concrete. Brains all over. Speed. Blood. Blue eyes. A bit too much makeup. Is not the readiness for flight also a kind of weakness? Unsteadiness? Fluttering? The office of the directors. Where it was and who sat there, no one knows. Through the window, the light fell in the hands of the leaders as they traced their plans. These trains. I love trains. The outside noise and the inside silence. Human nature, unstable, essentially rash. The nurse's face close to mine, she asks what happened exactly. Exactly. My view is sucked into the small black points of the stethoscope. My eyes are still watching. I see everything absolutely perfect now. The black seams on her white jacket. The nomads come from the north. My mother in the garden, so proud. The Mickey in our teacher's garden built. All the people gathered in the streets, while far away in the middle of the square, at the heart of the city, the execution of their ruler is proceeding. This is the way it will be. Reality hits. A body and its head. I try to lift my arm. I would like to slap my forehead. All clear now, all light, all clear. My heart is beating fast, so fast I can barely feel it. No inside perspective. There, finally, in the air, my heart beating, my coat cutting the skin of my throat. The cold. I have never seen a hand with the separate fingers so sharply differentiated from each other. A face grown quite old out of fear, and now again, all over. Restart. Look at the sun.
So this started with the text of Kafka, and quite a lot of people, quite a lot of businessmen or this kind of environment die, and so I did a research on what happens in the brain when you jump or fall. Beautiful texts are written about people who survived these kind of things. And the idea of the last film that is being that you see
before our eyes.
Yeah. And so it really happens. We know that actually all memories just open up in 1 second. It's like the library of memories, and suddenly it's not a flashlight. You can see one memory after the other one. This time the light goes on. So we started to work with that, and then go through in the same environment. Let's make a travel and go down, and trying to make this monologue happen as close as possible. A small story that I really liked. There was one woman here in New York that threw herself from the Empire State Building, and the wind catched her and put her back on the roof. Can you imagine? Yeah, she became very religious, of course. If God himself says,
"You're not going
oh
down."
man. But to figure to be there and to make this step and to do it and to be back on, wow. So this is an example of a frame, and this is set. Let's talk about this, and then never leave track. And the whole company, now they know too well how I work, so if I propose something, they see a bit all the troubles coming towards them. Here you have, here is one of those. Let's do an outside fireworks inside.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? It'll be fun. So this kind of controlled, uncontrollable thing. Not too loud, yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Kris. That was a real pleasure seeing some of your work and getting some insights into your process, and also Kristof for your contributions as well, and the dramaturgical insights that you've brought to the proceedings tonight. I'm always struck by the fact that, for me anyway, I think your work is at some level always about theatre, and it kind of distills the energy and the experience and the process or the dramaturgy of theatre into these very kind of intensified, energized moments, and we're always dealing with a certain level of theatrical energy, I think, in the works that I find really fascinating. Tonight we've seen, I think, a range of works that are both about theatre and also beyond theatre. They're showing us the future of the possibility of where theatre's going, and you know, they're very much an expanded theatre, I think, that we've seen on display tonight, and I look forward to seeing more and more works coming from your from the Two Dogs and also from your contributions. So we've got about 10 minutes left tonight for some questions from the audience. If you'd like to ask a question, please feel free. There's a microphone being passed around because we're live streaming the event tonight, and as you've seen, Kris is a very nice person, so I'll answer any questions that you have. Brian, we might wait for the mic, just it's on its way. It's another machine.
Two-part. If you could speak briefly about the image you keep throwing up of the wind turbine on fire, that'd be nice. And then you talked about when you present an idea to the company and they say, and I just wonder how that works, because for like this last one you showed, it looks like you need some engineers and some pyrotechnics, and each one would seem, so how does all that work, and what does the company mean to you?
First of all, this image was in Scotland, and
could we bring up the image again off the laptop, please?
Yep. Oh, technique. So we wait. This is always the same. It's burned in my memory. So this image. ... Yes. So it was a storm in Scotland, and you can see these ones are still in the right direction, and the storm made this one turn to the wrong direction, and it was so strong that it made this windmill turn to the other side, and so it started burning. But the amount of energy needed here, see the smoke going to the wrong side, to the wrong side. I don't know, to this side. And I like there's something, for me it's something playful, and also the amount of power needed to turn a windmill like this is so huge. And for me it represents this kind of trying for us to control things, and we just can't. While it's very nice to search other energy ways, but we have some problems. So first of all, I've never have an image in mind. As an artist, I do not, because I know the end image will not be the image that I think it will not happen. So the question is, what do I do? What do I ask to people around me? Because as if I have no image, so it's much more a system or a logic that is somewhere in. And for me, it's very important that on all production levels, from curators to technicians to the cleaning lady, if I have the chance, to light, they all have to understand the system. They all have to understand a logic of thinking for a particular piece. And then if they understand, you only have great talks. And the only thing I have to do is protect what the logic is about. And then people can do whatever. And also the liberty to take on all levels, everything has to bow to this idea, in the sense that and I have the liberty now, and that I'm quite proud on, I guess, in Europe, if a theater director or a curator asks me to produce a piece, and I say it's about this text of Kafka, and it's not allowed, then they're not allowed to say, and what kind of form it will get to. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm reading. We'll see where it takes us. And I think that's very important. And so we get to points where we really need specialists, so we search them. If we want the audience to sleep, well, we go and search people who can. And for example, I had one professor on the line, and he said, yeah, if you want to make people go to sleep, put them in bed. I'm like, yeah, but this is a problem I can't. No, you cannot, it's impossible. Okay, thank you, bye. Finished. And then suddenly I heard somewhere in this whole research that hypnosis could work. And then I met this doctor, a friendly 90 now, year old, who said, yeah, okay, yeah, let's go for it. And then suddenly I went with the whole team and the lighting guy and the technicians to have lessons on hypnosis. And he teaches us how it worked, and the dancer knew what kind of movements were important, and et cetera. And then everybody starts to understand what they're doing. And so content, that's the most important. And this content, the real story that is behind, that guides us all, and we're very loyal to it. The moment in brainstorms that things start to slide is problematic. As long as we stay on track on this, let's go make people to sleep or whatever, let's go from left to right, or from right. And then yeah, why would you go off track? We said that we go from one to the left. And while sticking, we call it also B flat. It's the same as jazz musicians. They have their thing, and then they can go off, and there's no problem, and everybody knows how to get back on track, and they can do whatever, and the other people, the other musicians give the chance to do somebody does a great solo, because they know they will get back on track. But everything, and I will really do whatever necessary to have an idea to give form to an idea, wherever it takes us.
Good. Question here.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I must admit I'm lost. I'm really lost. That I get kind of bits and pieces, and I don't know if it's because it's a new world and I'm very senior, but pretend I'm the cleaning lady, you know, and that you have the idea and everybody has to be in it. But you did suggest that you don't ever have an idea, that you don't...
An image.
And you don't have an image?
No.
You have an idea?
Yes.
All right, so pretend you have an idea, and we're all to be collected in this idea. We're all to operate together. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And and then you project it. And this is what I did understand about
Mhm.
these ways you project it. That I can understand how you do it, but I don't know what it is. I've never, except against the machine and against, I don't know what the ideas are.
Yeah, I know. I think it's, yeah, first of all, you have, for me, the between the body and the object. That's for me the basic thing. And the body and the object means, for example, the question, how many hours a day are you in front of your computer? And even the cleaning lady understands how her objects can help and cannot help. And sometimes she has good brushes, and sometimes she has bad ones, and then suddenly a world can open. With this kind of product, you clean something much more faster, and sometimes it doesn't work. And how that connection is made. And suddenly, if we talk about much more difficult interactions between objects and bodies. It changes constantly. Sometimes it's the subject, sometimes it's the object, and it keeps on mingling. And if I go a bit too much theater, it becomes visual arts. And if it becomes too much theater, then I switch to theater. And so I jump from one leg to another one constantly.
There's another question up the back.
Yeah.
I was really taken by the soundscapes that came out of the machines. And I'm just curious as to your feelings about the dialogue between the body and the machine, just composition.
Yeah, I think highly problematic is music as a medium because it always wins. It's like almost a godlike medium. Take a Hollywood film, take music out, and it's just nonsense. With all due respect, I didn't mean it this way. But immediately you have strings underneath something, and it's actually the strings that tell the story. It's not anymore this action. And in theater, it's exactly the same, also contemporary dance, where the music is so important and weighs on the whole production. So what I did was, if I do not want to have this kind of cinematographic language on my stage, I always put microphones on the things that were happening on the machines and on the bodies, and so we have an inside view as a spectator. For example, the heart, where the girl is being pulled backwards, she became transparent because we could feel with her the tension after the jump, and after a while she relaxed a bit, and so the heartbeat goes lower or less fast, and then suddenly she got a bit nervous, and so the heartbeat mounted again. And so you have a whole story that's being communicated just by the sound, which is much more important than the action itself. So we have a kind of empathy. The jumping robot. When I put the robot, these little R2D2 sounds off, people were less connected to it. And while just counting before it jumped, it humanized the whole apparatus. The problem with in Untitled, where the mascot, the problem there was when he jumped against the wall. We didn't have empathy at all. It was just funny. The moment we put a microphone inside of the mascot, then we had information from the inside, and the whole drama is much more from inside to outside and back, and again humanized this living doll. And so we had this empathy relationship.
Well, thank you very much, Kris. We've actually ran out of time tonight, but before we finish and thank the speakers, just to say that there's a symposium tomorrow, all day, 9 till 6 p.m. Downstairs. There'll be signs up in the foyer. Everybody's welcome to attend. We're going to hear some academic papers and some more conversations, artist talks about the work of Kris Verdonck and objects and performance. So this is one of the projects that we're doing in the PhD program in theatre here. And you're welcome to come. There's a number of our students and visiting students and other specialists giving papers along tomorrow night. Secondly, I'd like to thank the Segal Centre for their work in producing this event. This has been a really big event for us, and thank you to Frank and to all the staff at the Segal Centre. You've done a really fantastic job. And finally, thank you to our two speakers tonight, Kristof van Baarle and Kris Verdonck. It's been a really enlightening and interesting conversation, and thank you for sharing your work with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please stay around for some wine and some pretzel.